It was early March, but summer had already arrived in southern Florida, and except for a pleasant breeze off Sarasota Bay, the afternoon would have been overly hot for Kirk McGarvey and the 8 philosophy students seated in front of him on the grass. McGarvey, Mac to his friends, had been the youngest director ever of the Central Intelligence Agency, a job he had detested because he was no administrator. Since then, he'd taken on a variety of freelance assignments for the company, all of which had been too urgent or simply impossible for the government to handle on its own. In between times, he taught philosophy for $1 per year at Sarasota's New College, a semi-private, ultra-liberal, and prestigious small college. His specialty was Voltaire, the 18th century intellectual and wit who'd maintained that common sense wasn't so common after all. Slightly under 6 feet, with the build of a rugby player and the grace of a ballet dancer, Mac was a man around 50, with eyes that were sometimes green or gray, like now, when he felt something or someone was gaining on him. "How many of you know the name O.J. Simpson?" he asked. One of the boys said, "He's the one who killed his girlfriend and some guy." "His ex-wife and her lover?" one of the other students said. "He was acquitted," McGarvey said. His own philosophy had always been, if you throw a stick into a pack of dogs, the one that barks got hit. His students over the past 3 years knew that they were being manipulated, but they loved it, because of the sometimes intense discussions that usually followed. "Yes, but he did it." "No doubt." One of the girls laughed. "You've been hoisted on your own petard, Mac," she said. "Voltaire, and I quote, 'It is better to risk saving a guilty person than to condemn an innocent one.'" "Nice try, Darlene, but it's you who've been had, unless you don't believe in the basic premise of American jurisprudence." Someone groaned. "Presumed innocent until proven guilty, but this is a course on Voltaire, not fair." McGarvey chuckled. A distant buzzer sounded, which marked the end of this period. 500 words by Monday on what Voltaire would have thought about the trial. Arguments for why he would believe that O.J. was guilty, and for why he would believe the man was innocent. A 40-foot sloop out on the bay was heading south, probably for New Pass and the Gulf of Mexico. She was low on her lines, her dinghy was stowed, and she had a wind vane for self-steering on the stern. A small, well-provisioned ship heading for happy places. It was the last class on Friday, and his students, who often hung around to talk, took off. All across the small campus, kids and instructors alike were heading out. Everyone here worked hard, but played hard too. His phone rang. It was Pete calling from his house on Casey Key, a barrier island a few miles south. She'd come down from Washington to spend a few days with him, as she'd been doing from time to time over the past year or so. At one time, she'd been an interrogator for the company, but she'd fallen into helping McGarvey with an assignment that had started to go bad. And since then, she'd been his unofficial partner and a damned good operator in her own right. On top of all of that, she was in love with him, and he with her. "How'd your day go?" she asked. She was nearly 15 years younger than him, and in her interrogator days, when she always worked with a male partner, the agency wags had labeled her and whoever her partner might be, Beauty and the Beast. She was shorter than Mac, with the voluptuous figure of a movie star and a pretty oval face, and had become a crack shot with just about any variety of pistol. "Good," he said automatically. But something had been nagging at him for the past week or so, and for some reason, especially today. In his career, mostly as a shooter for the CIA, he'd had a chance to make a lot of enemies. From time to time, one of them came gunning for him. It had happened before, and he'd been getting the feeling that someone was nearby, watching him, tracking his routines, coming up on his 6. "I can drive up and meet you someplace for an early supper." He wanted to say no. He wanted her out of the way for the simple reason he was afraid for her safety. Every woman in his life, including his wife and daughter, had been assassinated because of who he was and what he did.